Tim, sounds like it's quite an undertaking. You bought this boat. Did you know about its provenance, that it is one of the first Pied Pipers ever built?
Yes, yeah. When it came up, I knew exactly what it was. I'd had a Pied Piper before this one, and we had heaps of fun in that. And this came up, and yeah, I knew exactly what it was.
So was she in a reasonable condition? Did you sail her, or did she require work straight away?
Yeah, no, she was in pretty good nick. The previous owners, the Harkins, they had done a good refit on her, so she was in relatively good condition, but had had a lot of use. And yeah, we just bought it to use, and we had heaps of fun in it. But you know, these old boats, they take a bit of looking after, and it got to the point where it needed a birthday, and yeah, so I reached out to Glenn. And
so just tell me, as I understand it, this boat was the first Pied Piper in the water, and it was built by Alan Warwick rather than Des Townson himself.
I believe that's the history. So there was, this is the first one that was put in the water. There was another one built basically at the same time, I think by Des's brother. But yeah, this was the first one in the water. And
so being the first Pied Piper in the water, this makes her nearly 60 years old this year.
yeah, it's getting on.
Yeah. But it's interesting in that the bow shape, well, the shape of the bow is different from what the more modern Pied Pipers are today. She came out with that bow, and then they decided to change it. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know that much about it. I know, you know, when you look at it, it's quite evident. You know, it's got a very different shape. I think it was really just down to the complexity of building that shape. I think the later models, people just tried to simplify the process a little bit. But other than that, yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
Ply would probably bend around a little bit easier as well.
So having used it for a while, you decided its birthday was coming up and it needed some TLC, and you got hold of Glenn to do that TLC. Exactly right?
That's pretty much, yeah. I mean, like a lot of these things, it started off, it was just going to be a lick of paint and, you know, a bit of a general tidy up. There's a few little pieces I wanted to work on. But yeah, we got involved with Glenn, and, you know, it became evident it was a bit more of a restoration than a tidy up.
So Glenn, you've obviously done many of these refits, restorations. Was this in a bad way given the fact that she's nearly 60 years old?
No, it wasn't at all, really. Luckily, the Harkin boys had sort of done a reasonable job of refitting it the first time round. So basically, we just had a bit of water ingress coming in a few areas where we, you know, took out a lot of ply that was rotten and stuff, and not too bad though. And replaced all that, did it all properly, and refiberglassed and gave it a full paint job.
But I think you said this cockpit that we're sitting in required a that was pretty shagged, was it?
Yeah, well, just the side in particular, that was the main part of the rot. This side was fine, except for this hatch. So we rebuilt that and re-glassed the floor that was standing.
And overall, I know that COVID interrupted the entire process, but in terms of on the job, about 3 months' work?
Yeah. We had a break with COVID, which you know, the boat dried out nicely in that time, and then we cracked back into it again once that was over.
The bowsprit or prod on the front, those original Pied Pipers obviously didn't come out with it, but that's a retrofit which is now within the class rule?
I don't think it's within the class rule for they call it the Intergalactics, which is the Pied Piper national event. You know, it's still spinnakers and but for most of the other, you know, races that we get involved in, then that's all.
Are there many other Pied Pipers that have got one fitted as well?
Yeah, I'd say I know of about a dozen that have got them on there. It's like a turbocharger for the...
So speaking of racing, you've got a young family, so is this a recreational boat, or do you want to get into racing?
We'll do a bit of racing, but yeah, I've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, two little girls, so it's really more just for exploring the Gulf and having a bit of fun. The first little trip away after the refit was just a night over at Motorhee with the girls, heaps of fun.
Yeah. This is your second Pied Piper. The other one was very different in terms of its performance or anything like that?
Yes, yeah. When we first bought this one and took it for a sail, I just couldn't believe how beautifully it sailed. You know, everything is just perfectly balanced. It's probably because it's in its original form as Des had intended. The previous one, the rudder was hung on the stern. Keel shape was a bit different. A whole bunch of sort of nuances, I suppose. But yeah, this is just a perfectly balanced boat. It'll basically sail itself.
And the sail plan, I mean, you've got the main and the jib, but you've got a spinnaker as well, or a jenniker, or...
Yeah, so we've got the jenniker off the prod and a spinnaker.
And you can fly both of those equally well with your family, or is it a bit of a mission?
It's a bit of a challenge, yeah. The wife's still an apprentice, so look, we'll get there, if the conditions are right.
Yeah, and then a sailing or a racing crew, you presume you've got mates that will come aboard with you?
Yeah, I've got a few mates, and my dad's always keen. So there's always a few people around that are keen to go out for a race.
So, Glenn, the structure or the construction of this is ply over kauri
Stringers and frames.
Strings and frames.
Yep.
And that was the standard sort of model of construction for them, the mode of construction?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the construction of most ply boats in the
Yeah.
country, and it's proven itself as being...
Pretty much, apart from the rot that you replaced, the hull is as it was.
The hull as it was, minimal rot in the hull considering its age and whatnot. So the quality of ply back then was probably quite good.
Everything has been changed in terms of the running rigging. These look brand new. A lot of these little cleats, I think those winches look pretty much brand new as well. But is it a complete change, Tim?
Yeah, like all these winches came with it when we bought it. We've redone all of the running rigging. The mast is as it came, and I think the sails are what it came with when we got it, and that'll be the next thing, will be an upgrade on the sails.
So what does it mean to you as the owner? You own it with your brother Matt, as I understand it, but you're basically the owner of a fairly significant legacy or part of New Zealand maritime history. Is that a big deal for you? Does it mean anything to you?
Oh, I think it does. I hadn't really considered it too much before we embarked on, restoring it.
Yeah.
But there's a huge number of people out there that identify with Pied Pipers, and also this one in particular. So it's that's one of those things. It wasn't something I was kind of looking for or into, and it's just sort of happened. But once you realise what it means to other people, you feel a bit of an obligation, to look after it.
John Ecclestone from Boating New Zealand. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to see more of these videos, please subscribe to our channel.